Okay, these are instructions for Module 4, the paper you have to write, which is a proposal. You're going to propose how to make students healthier at Marina High School. So let's get started. So I'm going to start. The first paragraph, just as background, talks about how the obesity epidemic is a big problem, and we need to help. And so for your fourth module, you've read 3 articles, all of which focus on the causes of the obesity epidemic and ways to improve it. So you are going to write a proposal to encourage healthier eating at Marina High School. Now, it's really important you understand this. This is not a speech to students that says you need to eat healthier and here are the reasons why, right? That's not what this is. So please don't do that. In fact, you should not address the students at Marina High School at all. I'm going to explain why. It says your proposal should help address a problem that you have identified and address an specific audience about how to help solve the problem. You could talk to ASB, Dr. Marion, parents, superintendent. It's got to be someone, the cafeteria, person in the cafeteria. It's got to be someone who can make a change, who can actually enforce a policy that's going to change something, not just telling people you should do this. That's not going to do anything. Okay, you need someone to make a rule or to serve different food or to create a new class or to provide information for students, something that forces people to do something to make a change. Because you tell people to do something, they're not going to do anything. Okay, nobody this age cares about their health because it actually hasn't had any consequences yet, for the most part. You will later on, but that's a whole different story. All right, so here are the requirements. 2.5 page minimum MOA format, 3 sources minimum. You can use you can use 2 of our articles or 2 quotes or paraphrasing or whatever from the articles, from 2 different articles that we've read for class, but you've got to find one on your own. It's part of the assignment. We want you to get used to doing research, okay? And then what do? Well, you need to have all these sections. So this paper is a little different because you've got to have different sections. You don't need to title them, like have subtitle or whatever, but you do need to have an intro. You need to address the problem, the solution, the result, and then have a conclusion, which can be part of your results section if you want. But these all need to be different paragraphs, and some of these might actually have a couple paragraphs. So the problem you might need to address it in a couple different ways. You might need to have a couple paragraphs for that, or same thing with the solution. So one of the ways that students get points marked down is, they skip these sections, or they do them really generally, or just, skip over them, barely talk about it. So you don't want to do that. Each section needs to be very thorough. You need to, it's either going to be a letter or a speech. Okay, so either way, you need to address someone very specifically. It could be Dr. Marion, the administration, Elena Gonzalez, who's in charge of the cafeteria, health teachers, district office personnel, you tell me. But whoever you talk to, you need to think about who your audience is and then use formal language if necessary, or, adjust your tone as necessary. And then, so make sure that you have a greeting, and just format it like an essay. So you don't need to have any block formatting or anything special like that. Okay. And then your intro is short, to the point. You introduce yourself. My name's so-and-so. I'm a senior at Marina High School. If you want to introduce anything else about yourself that you think will build some ethos, it would make you more convincing, you can do that. I'm ASB president, whatever. I don't know, I've been the leader of the nutrition club. Whatever is true. You don't need any quotes or paraphrasing in the paragraph. Then you get to the problem. So you identify what the problem is. Is it students' eating habits? Is it students' lack of knowledge about nutrition? Is it the choices that students have to eat on campus? But it's got to be some kind of issue on campus that has to do with eating habits or nutrition. Okay. You can write more than one paragraph here if there's a couple issues you want to address, but just write the problems for the issue that you're going to address. Don't talk about that there's not enough knowledge of nutrition if you're not going to address that problem and somehow get more information to students. Don't address the fact that the cafeteria food is terrible if you're not going to talk about changing the cafeteria food, okay? Only address the problems that you're going to solve. You need to quote and paraphrase in each of these body paragraphs. It could be from the articles you read in class. It could be from any sources you find, as long as they're reliable. We've talked about that before, not just some blog, right? It's got to be some kind of news source or reliable organization. And then if you want to do personal interviews, you just ask me to set up an interview. I'll give, I don't know, some participation points to some of my freshmen if they agree to meet you at lunch or something like that. So if you want to set up an interview, come and talk to me, but you can use that as a source if you want, an outside source. Okay. Then you've got the solution. Address the audience specifically. I want you, whoever you is, the district or the administration or the cafeteria personnel, to do this, right? You need to specifically do this. Be very specific here. The more specific you are, the better your grade. Be sure to address all the pertinent concerns. So don't just say, you need to offer better food. Okay, be specific. What kind of food choices? What do you want to see more of? And how are they going to do it? How are they going to cover their costs? How are you going to do it without raising costs? How are you going to, do they have the proper supplies? If not, how are they going to get the supplies? Where's the grants going to come from? You need to be specific here, otherwise it's not convincing. This paragraph would be much stronger if you really want to, write a really solid essay or a proposal here. Find an example of your solution being implemented somewhere else, and then talk about this is the model and this is how we want to do it. Be specific. That's going to be a good essay. Then you can quote and paraphrase however you want. Then your next section is the result. What is the projected outcome? How is it going to affect students? Again, the more specific you are, it's just going to make them healthier. That's not very specific. What do you hope to see based on what you implemented? If you have an example of the solution being implemented, it's better. If you have a personal story, when I started learning about food and nutrition, this is how I changed my diet, so I'm sure it'll help others, that kind of thing, that would be good. Talk about, certain food choice, when I'm offered this kind of food, this is what I take, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever examples you can give, the better. And then your conclusion, if you want to write a different concluding paragraph, you can. If you want to make your conclusion just the result, you can, but here's how you kind of wrap it up. Talk about why this is such an important issue, why they need to, make some changes now, and then thank the audience for their time or whatever. That's a nice way to wrap it up, right? Whether it's a speech or a letter. Okay. If it's a letter, sincerely yours or whatever at the end. Center, these are tips now. Center your proposal on one solution. Don't be all over the place, right? Like, what's the one thing we can do? So you don't need to talk about changing the cafeteria food and educating students on, it's one or the other. Like, choose something. Be practical in your solution. Needs to be realistic. It needs to be something that we can actually do. If it's not realistic, you're not going to get as many points. And again, you're not telling people how to change their habits. That's never worked in the history of the world, right? You need to eat healthier. Yeah, right. No one's doing that. So knock it off, okay? You're proposing a permanent change that will be made at the school. The vending machines will now serve this kind of food, right? It's a permanent change. By the way, don't worry, this isn't going to happen and you're leaving anyway, so who cares if it does? You should not be addressing students. Address the people who are going to make a permanent change at this school. Be sure your facts are correct. Don't say the cafeteria food is not prepared fresh unless you've checked it. P.S. They do prepare some of the food fresh. Some of it's packaged and warmed up. Quotes and paraphrasing needs to be used in, I already told you which paragraphs, at the very least in your, what the problem is. If you want to put it in the solution, that'd probably be better, okay? And make sure you cite everything. Anything that's not your opinion, you've got to cite it. Tell me where you got the information from. Okay. Don't forget, you're not just putting other people's opinion in here. You need to have your own opinions too. You need to explain how this is going to work. Okay. Due date Monday, December 18th. You got a couple weeks. Here's the essay resource page. If you click on it, it'll take you to the same page I've linked before. And so, works cited, how to do works cited, how to create how to do paraphrasing, citations, MLA format, all that stuff. Okay. If you have any questions, come and see me, and we will, I'll help you as best I can. Remember, no conferences this time. If you want a conference, just make an appointment. Tell me when you're going to come in, or you could just drop in. But if you drop in, then you need to wait until there's nobody here. See if anybody comes. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.